Is it true that Roger Boisjoly submitted a memo to Lund in 1985 stating that an aft field joint failure due to cold weather would be catastrophic and cause loss of life?
Yes, it's true, and it's tragic that no one saw fit to pay closer attention to his warnings.
Astrobrandt knows perfectly well what my stance regarding Challenger is, and this was his reaction to my statement along those lines. There was no reason to believe that if the O-rings failed, it would be catastrophic. And yet, on July 31st, 1985, 6 months before the Challenger disaster, Roger Boisjoly sent out the following memo to Thiokol's Vice President of Engineering, Robert Lund.
This letter is written to ensure that management is fully aware of the seriousness of the current O-ring erosion problem in the SRM joints from an engineering standpoint. The mistakenly accepted position on the joint problem was to fly without fear of failure and to run a series of design evaluations which would ultimately lead to a solution or at least a significant reduction of the erosion problem. This position is now drastically changed as a result of the SRM 16A nozzle joint erosion, which eroded a secondary O-ring with the primary O-ring never sealing. If the same scenario should occur in a field joint, parentheses, and it could, then, close parentheses, then it is a jump ball as to the success or failure of the joint because the secondary O-ring cannot respond to the clevis opening rate and may not be capable of pressurization. The result would be a catastrophe of the highest order, loss of human life. An unofficial team, parentheses, a memo defining the team and its purpose was never published, close parentheses, with leader was formed on 19 July 1985 and was tasked with solving the problem for both the short and the long term. This unofficial team is essentially non-existent at this time. In my opinion, the team must be officially given the responsibility and the authority to execute the work that needs to be done on a non-interference basis, parenthesis, full-time assignment until completed, close parenthesis. It is my honest and very real fear that if we do not take immediate action to dedicate a team to solve the problem, with the field joint having the #1 priority, then we stand in jeopardy of losing a flight along with all the launch pad facilities. Then I signed it, and a manager that I work for countersigned it, as concurred.
I have done more for the Apollo 1 and Challenger crews than Astrobrandt will ever hope to, and he can't even be bothered to find out whether or not there was any reason to believe an O-ring failure would be catastrophic.
But that having been said, one has to take into consideration that there is a whole class, a labeled category, of severe risks to crew and craft. These hundreds of potentially catastrophic conditions were cataloged, studied in depth, and prioritized. There had been no previous incident of SRB failure in a shuttle mission, and they did not believe the astronauts' lives were in serious jeopardy. People made wrong decisions, and there may even be negligence involved. in their failure to take greater precautions and their failure to delay the launch. It's easy to cherry-pick after the fact, but 20/20 hindsight is not always the fairest way to assess a tragic situation. People could reasonably debate levels of responsibility in this incident, but that's not really what you're all about. You bring this up because you believe the astronauts were murdered by NASA. You follow along blindly behind your psychotic leaders, Ralph Renee and Bill Kaysing. And anyone who believes that intelligent people would use a method as unreliable and unpredictable as that to murder someone is an absolute moron.
It is my honest and very real fear that if we do not take immediate action to dedicate a team to solve the problem, with the field joint having the #1 priority, then we stand in jeopardy of losing a flight along with all the launch pad facilities.
And the reason you and Renee and Kaysing think that this crew of 7 fine people were murdered and one whole space shuttle destroyed is so repugnant and offensive, I can't even bring myself to say it into a microphone. That felt good.